Hi, Teresa. Thank you so much for joining us here in Perth. And we're both in Perth, and it's a lovely, almost summer's day. No, not summer, but still in spring. We have technology these days which can put us in contact, even though we're in the same city. So thank you for taking the time to have a chat to us. And do you mind introducing yourself to our viewers today, please?
Hi, Shoni, and thanks for having me. And yes, it is a very nice day today, isn't it? We're so lucky to be here in Perth. Obviously, our life is just kind of going on as every day normal, and COVID's not a huge issue. It's still considering it and doing the safe distancing and whatnot, but it's not really a huge issue in my day-to-day life. So, yeah, great place to be. So, yes, my name is Terresa Lynes, former Deputy Mayor for the City of Gosnells, and thank you for having me. Also the Metro Vice President for the Local Government Women's Association here in WA.
Very important, that's
yes.
Right.
So,
and still working very hard at helping us to try and get more women into local government.
Yes, that's our aim for sure.
Teresa, tell me, you said that you were the former Deputy Mayor of City of Gosnells. Which year were you elected, and when did you stop being the Deputy Mayor?
Okay, so I was first elected to council in 2015 at the City of Gosnells, and then 2 years later I was elected as the Deputy Mayor, because you get a 4-year term, as you would know. And yes, and unfortunately in 2019 I wasn't re-elected. So difficult race it was, I think, and I could tell you why, but anyway, we'll go through that in a minute.
That's the reality of this job that we're in. I say job, it's not really a job, but this role that we're in is you sort of feel really certain at one stage. I think that's the day after you're elected, you're okay, like yes, and then almost every step afterwards, you're never anytime sure that you'll get back in. So it always keeps you on your toes. And as you've just said, sadly, you were not re-elected. And this is the reality of what we do as local government councillors. You don't always know what people are looking for, and you don't necessarily know what kind of candidate they want to vote back in or vote out or anything. So what's your lowdown of what do you think what happened at in your election?
So I think, like, City of Gosnells is, I think it's the 5th biggest city in the Perth vicinity, or in WA, and they don't have wards in the City of Gosnells. So you're campaigning to the whole of the City of Gosnells, which there's 125,000 people in the City of Gosnells and
Wow.
74,000 eligible voters. So that is a lot of people to campaign to. And also when the resident, the voter, picks up the sheet to have a look to see who they're going to vote for, they open this massive sheet that's got, like, I think there was 31 or 32 people that were running. So then you've got to go through and read all of those. If you don't know the person, read all of those, those bios to see which one you think you might gel with the best. And out of 31 people, they've got to pick 6. So, everybody's going to connect to people for a different reason. Sometimes people just pick for a photo. Other times they might like the opening sentence. Some people might read the whole thing and work out they do actually like what you're saying. But, it's very difficult to express who you are in that 150 words as well to someone that doesn't know you from a grain of salt, grain of sugar or whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, I think the fact that there are no wards and you've got the huge area to campaign to in the area was a bit of an issue. And also I've got to take a bit of responsibility myself. I may have got a little bit complacent with my campaign. Didn't spend a whole heap of money on my rerun because I figured I'd been so dedicated and committed over the time that I was there that I'm like, surely I'm going to get re-elected. So I pretty much went to everything that the council had on, community events, every council, majority of council meetings, all the workshops, everything. I was pretty committed to my role. And yeah, I just got a bit complacent, I think. So
it goes to show you that, as I said earlier, you're never really sure. There's nothing that guarantees you getting back in. And on that note, if you could, would you do it again? Like, would you stand again for any local government?
I definitely would, because I thoroughly enjoyed the role. And if anyone is listening to this and considering joining local government, I strongly urge you to reach out to one of us if you want more information, of course. And also, yeah, just go for it, because what have you got to lose? And you're in such a great position to be able to connect people within the community and, you know, go out into the community and work out what the community want, and then bring that back to the council so the council can implement for the future of the city.
So what would you say was the best for you, having been firstly a councillor on, obviously on council, deputy mayor councillor, and secondly as a female councillor? What do you think are the best things of those two positions that you've done?
I'll go to your second question first about being a female councillor. To be honest, the council I was on, there weren't major issues with whether you were male or female. It was the staffing and the CEO and the executive team and the other councillors were all very supportive, I guess, to a certain degree, which was great. It didn't come down to, oh, you're a woman, what would you know? Which I know other councillors do go through that. But that didn't seem to be too much of a problem on the council I was on.
Good.
Now you're going to have to prompt me for what your first question was again.
So what was the best thing for you about being a councillor? What did you enjoy the most, or what's the top thing that you take away from having been on council for those 4 years?
Okay, I think like from item wise, like the best thing that I managed to get was I initiated the first dog park, the enclosed dog park in the city of Gosnells. But I guess my proudest one is initiated a mural for the RSL building, because, you know, we need to thank our diggers, and they were over the moon with the result of the mural that we had painted on their building. So, I mean, there were lots of other things in between, but just the highlights were those. But leaving council and not being on council anymore, what I take with me is that people can make a difference, like an individual can make a difference. And I just really urge anyone that is thinking about running for local government to go for it, because you can actually make a difference. Your voice, you've got a bigger voice when you're on council, and you can go out there and represent the people in your community and get forward what they want.
What made you run for council then in the first place? Did you know all these things before?
No, I didn't know all of those things. So, you know, I hear people say that they wanted to give back to the community and whatnot. And like, I've always been someone that gives back anyway. So, but I have to be honest, the reason I got involved with council is because I had a dispute with a neighbour, you know, a neighbouring fence dispute. And then I started to work out what council was all about. And I'm like, wow, not sure that I like all this. So I thought I might have to get on there and have a change of this. And a lot of people get involved with council because they've had problems with council. And I shouldn't say that I necessarily had problems. It's just because I didn't know any different, and it didn't seem right to me what happened. So, and as
well, that's good, because then you informed yourself, and then you realized, well, there's a bit more to it. And and it puts you in a position where you can then help other people know more about how it actually works if they encounter any issues as well. So it's about an educational role as well, communicating what council does and how it operates, and what the role is that the community can play within the operations of council. And
let's say my eyes were opened to what could be.
What could be and what could not be too, because that's the flip side. Sometimes people think as a councillor you can just fix things magically. It's not necessarily how things work.
Not. Yeah.
So what would you say, how many hours a week did you spend on council tasks or business or work?
There was less time spent per week when I was in the councillor role, but as the deputy mayor role, I was probably spending 35 plus hours a week.
Wow.
So I was on a few extra committees as well, and as subsidiary, you know, other councils as a representative for the city. So yeah, a fair bit of time involved with being on council, especially in the deputy mayor role, because obviously your role is to step in for the mayor when he's not available as well.
Yes.
So,
yeah. And what was the worst thing for you, the hardest thing to deal with as a councillor? Not in terms of what issues that you have in the community, you know, like a mural or something. I'm just talking in general, the kind of jobs or tasks or things that you had to deal with. What was the hardest for you?
Okay, so I guess, as you would know, Shamini, is when you get on council, you're kind of thrown in the deep end, to be honest. Like, you do get support from the staff and the other councillors, but they can only help you so much. And you just have to get your mind across so many different areas. I mean, when you work in a council, you only have to specialise in that area that you work in. But when you're a councillor, you kind of got to get your mind across a whole broad range of different issues, not even issues, just the knowledge of how council works and what happens in this area, because you're getting all these questions from the community, and you need to know the answers, because they want to have, they want to put their faith and trust in that you know how to do the job. So you need to know how council works to do that. So I guess that's, and people commonly say it'll take a good couple of years. Councillors have said this numerous times, former, current, and that it'll take a couple of years before you see the nuances and the repetitiveness of things to work out, hang on, that's not right this time, or to cross-reference back. So it takes a couple of years to work it out.
Well, I find I'm still working it out sometimes. There's always something new that comes over your way, and it's like, oh wow, I haven't really gotten into this aspect of local government, because it's so wide. It covers such a breadth. It's no longer rates, rubbish and roads. There's much more to council than only those three things. So we've got a lot to learn once you start being a councillor, but then it's also good to have lifelong learning and keep on learning, even if you've been a councillor for many years. Teresa,
yes, always something new.
If there were women watching this considering joining local government and running in the elections next year, what would you say? What would you say to them? What's the tips that you might have, or advice on whether they should or shouldn't run?
Don't be complacent, for starters. Do everything you can. Like, you need to get out there. I mean, door knocking, I think, is a huge thing that needs to happen if you want to get your name out there and actually meet people and let them know who you are. Hopefully you don't have a huge area to door knock. Obviously, for me in the city of Gosnells, you just couldn't door knock, for 70,000 people. It just take you too long to do it. And I think the other issue is we need to remember is not everybody votes, So out of those 70,000 people, only just over 15,000 voted in the city of Gosnells. So I think I got about 3,000, just on 3,000 votes out of that, but not quite enough. Sorry, going back to what you were saying, for any women that were considering running, I definitely think that you should definitely go for it, because it's just been such a fantastic experience for me. And just being able to help people, and sorry, got a bit of a tickle in my throat there. Just being able to help people it's really good to be in that position, to be able to, condense the information through and then bring it back to council so they can sort of set a strategic direction for your area.
And lastly, as a mum, you're a mum as well. How did you find managing your time between your household and you work full-time as well, didn't you? Like, you had a job or a business as well, is that right?
Oh, we've got a business, yes. So I've got a bit of flexibility with our business, being, in small business, you have got a bit of extra time. And my husband and I, between us, we've got 5 children, but we're luckily, no, I won't say luckily, sadly, only one of them lives at home now, because they're all a bit older. But of course, with that means that the other 4 have got different areas where they live too, so you're kind of flitting here, there and everywhere. But it's not easy to balance children, but and the council role, because there's a lot of nighttime meetings that you have to go to and whatnot, but it can be done. And I think if you do get elected, and just remember that you can say no, you don't have to attend everything. It's nice if you do, but you don't have to, so you can still be a councillor without attending absolutely everything. So as long as someone is there to represent council, it doesn't have to be every councillor there to represent council, as long as there's at least one.
Yeah, well, and the other beauty is a lot of the council things are family oriented, so you can take your family along. If it's like on a weekend, if you have a fair somewhere, you can take the family along to it. So I found that that's really good. It's flexible in that sense, but yes, as you say, sometimes especially during the week, and if you have kids that still goes to school or have to go to bed early, you have to make that choice between, am I going to leave my kids at home and let somebody else look after them and go to the meeting, or am I going to stay with them? But there is definitely a balance to be had, and it's doable.
It is definitely doable. It's doable, and you'll get a lot out of it if you do run and get elected. And if if you're watching this and you're in WA and you need some help or advice before and after getting elected, reach out to the WAWAs, which is us, and we're more than happy to help.
Awesome. WAWA's Western Australian Women's Association.
Australian Local Government Women's Association WA branch. WAWAs.
Oh, there you go, the long name. Thank you so much for talking to us, Teresa. It's been lovely to have you online. Appreciate it. And I'm sure that there will be somebody else who's watching this that will resonate with what you've said. And hopefully we've managed to get a couple of women across the line to consider putting their ring in the hat in the ring. No? Yes, hat in the ring, and so that they can run.
Chamonix, I will see you tonight because we're celebrating at the town of Cottesloe 100 years of women in local government. So
absolutely, how fabulous. Yes, Councillor Elizabeth Clapham was the first female councillor elected to Western Australian government. So it's exciting. Thank you. And Teresa, keep up the good work. It's been lovely to have a chat to you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Chamonix.
See you.
Bye.